too pure for this wicked world. Your data's uncorrupted, but does something skip inside you? That's what takes up time.
Hello, welcome back to My Hot Kitchen. Thank you for joining me again. I'm Wendy, and I'm ready to teach you another one of my favorite romantic dinners. But before you just jump into the cooking, let's talk a little bit about romance. See, romance starts with you. Really. All you have to do is focus on the way you want your sweetie to feel. Picture that smile and feel those feelings you want him or her to feel. And if you stay focused on these things, your food is going to taste wonderful and you'll have an amazing time with your sweetie. So relax and focus on your sweetie. I think you'll see why after dinner. Tonight's delicious dinner will be little chickens with sauteed asparagus and a wild rice side dish. The first thing you're going to want to do is season up your little chickens. I have 2 Cornish game hens here, and when I make Cornish game hens, I like to just keep it simple and let the flavor of the bird shine through. So the first thing you want to do is sprinkle them liberally with lemon pepper, and be liberal with it. Lots and lots of lemon pepper. You can use a fancy grinder like the one I have, or you can use just regular old lemon pepper. Whatever you have on hand and whatever you like is great. And the next ingredient is paprika. Again, be quite liberal with it. And the final ingredient is going to be some Italian herb mix. And now for the fun part. You're going to take it and pull the little chicken off the plate and just rub those herbs and spices all over the outside of the chicken. And then all over the inside as well too. And the moisture from the chicken is going to help spread the herbs all around it and all the way through it. Try to cover all the surfaces and then move on to the next one. Cornish game hens are really just tasty little chickens. They have a little bit different flavor, but it's really a familiar chicken flavor. All right, this one's done. I'm going to nestle it in here in my little 9x9 pan. And then I'm going to take a little piece of string and tie up the legs. And this is going to help to hold the chicken together while it bakes. Tie it in a nice little knot. Cut off your extra string. And then repeat with the other one as well. This is going to be really, really tasty. And I like to tuck the wings around the back side because it helps to also hold the bird together. Helps the breast to cook a little bit more evenly. And if they're being uncooperative, just be persistent. And now these are ready to go in the oven. You want to bake these at 350 degrees for 45 minutes to an hour. And now you're moving on to the wild rice side dish. And the first thing you want to do is chop up your vegetables. I have some mini carrots here, and I'm going to quarter them lengthwise so that they're easy to handle. And then lay them flat. I like to lay things flat when I'm cutting it because it reduces the chances of me cutting my fingers. And then one more slice in half. This is where you quarter it. And what you're going for here is a nice little minced carrot. Enough to add color and flavor, but not enough to interfere with the rice. And then you just want to line them up like cute little soldiers. And bunch them up. You're just going to take your knife and run through your quarters. Make a nice little mince. The carrots add a lot of flavor and character to a rice dish like this. Now you're moving on to your mushrooms. I'm just going to quarter these guys up so that they keep their mushroomy character to them. With the wild rice being as nutty and rich as it is, you want to make sure that your other ingredients have a chance to show through as well. Look at those cute little quartered mushrooms. It's going to be really, really good inside that wild rice dish. Go ahead and put the mushrooms on top of the rice. You're actually going to add it to the sauté pan at the same time. And then gather up your walnuts. And let's go fry up some carrots and garlic and mushrooms. Make a delicious rice dish. So we have a pre-warmed pan here. And you want to add a couple tablespoons of olive oil to it. And the first thing you're going to drop in there is going to be the carrots and the garlic. Give it a little saute there. Just give the garlic and the carrots just a moment to warm up in the oil. Add a little fresh cracked pepper. And this is the point where you want to add those tasty little walnuts. If you put them in right now, you can toast them a little bit, which is just going to make this dish taste even better. All right, and when you have everything just kind of starting to smell very aromatic, that's when you want to add the mushrooms and the rice. I'm going to opt for an old-fashioned spoon at this point because I don't want to lose any of this rice on my grill. Just move it around the pan. Make sure that every little kernel of rice has a chance to get browned. And you should start to smell the rice kind of toasting a little bit. And this is the point at which you want to add your water. You're going to want to use a lot of water when you make a dish with wild rice. The wild rice takes a little bit longer to cook than most white rices. So the other thing that you're going to need to add a little bit more of is salt. Now if you prefer, you can substitute chicken stock or chicken bouillon for the salt, and that will help to add a lot of flavor. But I really do like to let the flavor of the wild rice shine through. So I'm going to opt for salt. The final ingredient to add will be the basil. This is going to taste really, really good. And because you're keeping the ingredients simple, the natural flavors of all the ingredients are going to shine through. You're going to want to put a lid on this, bring it up to a boil, and then drop it back down to a simmer. And it's actually going to need to cook for about 45 minutes. Got a little boil going on here, so I'm going to turn the heat down. All right, the next thing that you're going to want to do is check on your little chickens. So we've got our trusty brush and a little bit of butter here. And we're going to pull the chicken out of the oven. I like to pull it out about 15 minutes after it started cooking because the skin starts to get a little crispy all by itself. And you want to help it along with a little bit of butter. And I usually just take butter that's hard. I don't melt it or anything. The heat of the bird does that for me. And I just brush it across the surface. And look how pretty that makes those little chickens. These are ready to go back in the oven. You're going to want to pull those out and brush them with butter a couple more times while they cook. So now that you've got your chicken in the oven and you've brushed it with butter once and your rice pilaf is cooking, you're going to have a little downtime before you start the asparagus. So go relax, have a glass of wine or whatever you like to drink, and just enjoy your evening with your sweetie. Well, now that you've had a little break, it's time to check on your rice. So go ahead and dig in there with a little spoon and grab yourself a little bite. Make sure you get some wild rice in there so you can taste it. The white rice should be completely cooked, and the wild rice should have a little bit of bounce to it. Everything should be all cooked and combined in there. Now, if you taste it and it tastes a little flat, go ahead and sprinkle a little more salt across the surface of it and put the lid back on. Mine tastes great, so I'm going to put the lid back on. And now you want to turn the heat off. The next thing you want to do is pop back over here to your oven and check on your little Cornish game hens. You should have brushed them a couple times with butter and maybe even turned the pan around a couple times to make sure they brown evenly. My favorite way to check these little guys is to slice right into them and check the color of the liquid. So slice into the thigh, slice right in between the body and the leg, and take a peek in there. You should see nice clear liquids and nice white meat. If you see anything that's red or pink, that means your little Cornish game hens aren't quite done. They need a few more minutes. These look great. So we're just going to set these aside and let these rest for a moment. With any kind of roast meat, if you let it rest for a couple minutes, it's going to have a better texture when you go to serve it. Now you're on to the really fun part of the meal, the asparagus. I like to just go ahead and cut off about 1/3 of the stalk. Usually does the trick. It leaves us with the nice tender ends. And the next thing you want to do is pop over here to your saute pan. Add a little olive oil to it. And then swirl it around the pan to make sure that it's evenly heated. Add some chili flakes. And if you add it into your hot oil, you're going to allow the flavor of the chili flake to develop a little bit. Drop in the asparagus. Toss it in the olive oil. Season it with salt. A little bit of black pepper for fun. And a little lemon zest. This is really going to make the flavor of the asparagus pop. Lemon zest is pretty potent stuff, so just a little bit will go a long way. Go ahead and toss it up again. Make sure that those seasonings get evenly distributed around the asparagus. Let it saute and simmer and pop for a few minutes. And then you're going to deglaze it with a little bit of wine. So give it just a couple more seconds before you go ahead and do that. So you can see that the asparagus has started to turn colors. It's turning a little bit brighter green than it was. Go ahead and drop that wine into the pan. And I like to jazz it up just a little bit more with a couple dashes of balsamic vinegar. Then put a lid on it and let it steam itself for just a couple minutes. Asparagus cooks really quickly, so it's not really something you want to walk away from. Let's go ahead and take another look. All right, my fingernail is just piercing the stalk. Color's nice and bright. I'm going to take the lid off and let some of this liquid cook out for a second. And then it will be done. These are perfect. You don't want them to cook any more than that. So take it off the heat. And let's move on to plating this delicious dinner. putting the pilaf on the bottom of the plate. Give it a little fluff first, because that's going to help bring out the best side of the texture. And what I'm going to do is make a nice little bed of rice underneath everything. And it's going to kind of serve as the background for your pretty little plate that you're making for your sweetie. Just a little bit more on this plate. The next thing you want to do is grab these cute little Cornish game hens out of the pan. If they've rested for a few minutes, you should be able to pick them up with your bare hands. Kind of nestle it in there on top of the pilaf. Grab the other one. You know, if they're too hot, make sure you grab a pair of tongs or something to help you get those out of the pan. And the last little piece is the asparagus. Look at how pretty this dish is. So elegant. Just gonna nestle that in right there. Nestle it in again over here. Look what you did. Just a few simple whole ingredients combined together to make an easy and romantic dinner. I'm going to go ahead and wipe up some of these little grease spots that the asparagus and the food left on the plate so it looks really pretty and like a fancy restaurant meal. This looks amazing, and this is ready to be served to your sweetie. Nice job. That was such a beautiful meal you just made for your sweetie. And it's certainly not one that you can find at most restaurants. And you did it all in the privacy of your own home. So go have a really great night with your sweetheart. Well, you don't need this anymore. Oh, sweetie.
Oh, wow, it smells so good.
I bet it does.
Here I come.
Check you out.
Wow, you look nice. This looks great.
Nice to see you.
I agree. I love these snacks.
So thanks for joining me in my hot kitchen tonight. I hope to see you next week. Make sure you remember to turn up the heat in your kitchen. Night-night.
Oh baby, you're too pure. You're too pure for this.
Pet the kitties.